Booth.
I'm here.
Okay, you're G for some reason. No? No, that's Lynette. Katie. Where's Katie Booth? And Joe said he was going to have to do two meetings at one time.
That's hard to do.
And yeah, really. I see Carla Pleasant. I see CP.
Can you not see me?
No. Katie, I can't see you. And Carla, I can't see you either. And I need to see both of you. You need to turn your cameras on.
My camera is on.
Camera is on.
I turn it off and I'll turn it back on again. But yeah, my camera's on.
Up, there you are. There's my girl right there. There she is.
I have turned mine on. This is Katie.
Hey, Katie. There you are. There's all the people.
Yeah, I had to turn my camera off and then turn it back on again.
Yes, the lovely nature of technology. We just love it. Katie, we were missing you again. And I have spam calls coming in all day long today for some reason. Can't see you, Katie. There you are. There you are. Okay. All right. Joe, I think we're here. So, Joe, you can kick us off.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. I want to thank everyone for joining our State Advisory Council for Gifted and Talented Education. I hope everybody's doing well today and hanging in there. I know this is difficult times during our pandemic, and it's definitely a challenging time. So I appreciate you taking some time. I just wanted to set the stage for today and just remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. Becca is recording it for us. And it's also important to know that this meeting is under the open meeting records law, and so it is a more formalized meeting. I know it's easy to not be as formal since we're online and Teams, but I'm just reminding the audience that this is a more formalized advisory council meeting, and so just want to make sure folks abide by that, and just remind folks all members need to have their cameras on. I understand if we have bandwidth issues, we may need to turn those off. If you do have bandwidth issues, that's okay. But for the open records law, it's that members always have their cameras on so that we can see them when they speak. And so really appreciate you all being here today. Kathy and I have coordinated, and I'm going to turn it back over to you now, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you, everybody, for being here, especially in these crazy times. And I know that some of you are wearing many hats and trying to serve students and juggle all the things. And I just want you to know that we just appreciate your time and energy so much today. This is being recorded, like Joe said, and it will be posted to the State Advisory Council Gifted and Talented Education web page. It usually takes about 24 hours for us to get it posted up there, but it is posted. And the agenda notes will be there, and also the meeting summary. I'll make that available to you guys. So I guess without any more ado, we'll just turn it over to Dr. Roberts, who is going to welcome us.
I am so glad that we have a chance to be together, and meeting virtually is the way at the moment. So I am so glad to see each of you. The purpose of the State Advisory Committee for Gifted and Talented Education, and I'm reading this specifically, is hereby created for the purpose of advising both the Department of Education and Board of Education on issues relating to the provision of educational services for gifted and talented students in the Commonwealth. So, keeping our purpose in mind, let us begin with a roll call. And Kathy, can you do that simply by seeing who's on the
camera?
Yes. I think the only person that we're missing today is, well, I know that Lisa Sisk was not going to be here today. She had some things that came up at the very last minute due to COVID. I see Lindsay Burton, Katie Booth. Do I see Lindsay Burton? Lindsay, are you here? Okay, Lindsay Burton is not here. I see Katie Booth, Emily Lawson, Dr. Roberts, Dr. Miller, Dr. Deanna Miller, are you here? I don't see Dr. Miller. Okay. Joe Percival said he would be trying to join us later, or either trying to do 2 meetings simultaneously. He had an NTI meeting as well. Okay, so I see Carla here, Miss Mackey is here, and I'm here. So that is our roll call, Dr. Roberts. So now we can move on to minutes if you want to. Oh, yes, Lynette. Lynette, you're here. I'm so sorry, Lynette. My bad. And Lynette Baldwin is here from Cage. Did I miss anybody?
I need my glasses.
If not, then we can proceed with the minutes.
I gotta go get my glasses.
I sent the
minutes have been sent out. Do you need a minute to look over them, or have you done that prior to or getting together?
I looked over them. I didn't see. I just saw one little tiny thing. Let me see if I can find it again. And it was just, I don't know why it stuck out at me. Hold on a second.
Okay.
I'm looking through.
If anybody else sees anything, let me know and I can correct those.
Yes, it's in item number 6 under feedback, where it says Anderson's suggested. Well, it just has our last names. That's all.
Okay.
Instead of our full names, it just has last names. But I see that's throughout, so ignore that.
Yeah, that is the way that we're asked to do that, Carla, through the communications department.
Not a problem. I see it's throughout. It just stuck out at me because it was like, where's my first name? Okay, not a problem. Everything looks great to me.
Okay.
I move we accept the minutes as written.
All right.
And is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor, raise your hand. And all those opposed do likewise. And strange as it is, I can't see you all unless you speak. WKU does not have access to using this particular meeting, so I can't see a gallery. But
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I presume all of you approved. Is that correct, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You'll
So
have
the
to
minutes.
my eyes for that.
No. Okay.
I actually can't either, Tate.
So as I welcome you to this meeting, I want to call your attention to the fact that our numbers are fewer right now because the executive order that the former governor had issued has expired, which takes us back to the original. The categories for membership are different, and Kathy has sent out to you the list with the appointments and the dates that they'll be approved, that they are approved for, but also the categories that we need. So I am hoping that each of you will reach out to people you know who you think might be good members of the advisory council. One, because they're interested enough to attend meetings, and two, because they have enough information about gifted children that they would feel they could make contributions to what we're doing. And if you would encourage them to fill out a form, and if you ask me for it, I can send you that form via email, and have them apply, and then we hope the governor will make the appointments before we would meet the next time.
I've got a question. I did get the list from Kathy, but it doesn't have dates on it. Just has the membership list. So I'm not sure if the appointments are going to be staggered or if it's going forward, or do you have any information on that?
I actually do not have information on that.
Let me see if I can bring that up really quickly, Carla. I believe we also go back to if your membership has expired or your membership term has expired, that you can ask for reappointment. Let me see if I can bring that up really quickly here. Sometimes.
And I think
Yeah.
we have dates for those of us who are appointed. I think maybe Carla's asking about for the pretty numerous folks that would be appointed. Would they be staggered? Am I thinking of what you're thinking, Carla?
No, I'm just wondering because in the time that I have served, the board has been appointed and unappointed and appointed and unappointed and appointed and unappointed. So, I mean, I'll serve for as long as you want me, but I'm not quite sure how long that is. And if I need to apply for reinstatement or reappointment, I don't know.
I actually think that is on the form.
I have the form in front of me, and Carla, you need to reapply.
Okay. Oh, see, I don't have that form.
Okay. It was the second page for me.
Oh, okay.
When I printed it.
Well, I don't know that there's a form necessarily, Carla. Joe, if you could unmute yourself. I know that the Special Education Advisory Council has to go through this process sometimes too. Do you know what the process is if you want to request reappointment?
You have to fill out the form again and reapply.
Yes, you do have to make sure that you apply at the boards and commissions link. That is the governor's office link. And then our office can submit a request to the governor's office asking for reappointment.
Yes, I can. I've seen it.
I'm putting that link in the chat over here, and you can either download the form and fill it out and send it out to the contact listed there, or you can apply online. If you apply online, it won't come up as State Advisory Council for Gifted Education. It will come up as Education, State Advisory Council for Gifted Education. So if you'd like to apply again, please go ahead. I've put up here on the screen, can y'all see the member positions and voting member, that type of thing? Can't see that.
Yes, I could see it. Now it's gone.
Oh, now it's gone. Yeah.
Let me try again. Sorry about that.
Vacant. Looks like all of them.
So we have 4 teacher positions now when we're back to the KRS. And so Lindsay Burton is fulfilling that position until this summer, 6/30, her term expires. But we need a middle school teacher and a high school teacher. Then we also need then we've got a GT teacher, and Katie Booth is filling that position. And her term goes to 6/30, 2022. And then Emily Lawson, we put her in the slot of teacher full-time. She's from Garrett County, and her term expires 6/30, 2021. So Emily, if you'd like to be reappointed, then you can fill out that form to ask for reappointment. Then we need 4 parents. So like Dr. Roberts said, if you know of any parents who you feel would make good candidates, please let them know. 2 of the 4 parents have to be parents of gifted students. We need a parent member who's on a school council, an SBDM member. And then the 4th parent, it doesn't really, there aren't any criteria for that one according to the KRS. Then we have 3 post-secondary positions. Dr. Roberts is filling one of those roles, and her term expires in 6/30, 2022. And then we need another public post-secondary person, and then we also need a private post-secondary person. So again, if you know of anyone who you feel like would make a good candidate, please reach out. Then we have a superintendent that's being filled right now by Dr. Deanna Miller, and her term expires 6/30, 2021. We have 2 principals that we need. Joe Percival is currently filling the filling the high school principal. His has expired. So Joe, if you can hear me, if not, I'll contact him. He is expired, so if he'd like to renew his appointment, he can do so. Then we also need an elementary or middle school principal. We also need 2 coordinators. And then I'm not exactly sure how we go about doing this, but I'll reach out and do that too. We have non-voting people. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed some people here. We also need someone who represents the visual and performing arts, and right now Carla Pleasant is doing that. But Carla, you've expired as well. And then Miss Mackey, we need a private business sector person. And as you can see, yours expired back in the summer too. So if y'all would like to reapply, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm not the principal at SCAPA. I appreciate the promotion, but I'm the facilitator at SCAPA.
All right.
I do appreciate the promotion though. I'm
so
GT
welcome.
facilitator. Yeah. My title is GT facilitator.
Gotcha. Thank you for correcting me on that, Carla, keeping me honest, keeping me up to
Like I
date.
said, I'll take the promotion.
I can promote you all day long, right?
There you go.
And
Okay.
Kathy, what we'll need
Yes.
to do is we will need to send an email and coordinate with our policy advisor, and then they can coordinate with the governor's office.
All
Okay,
right.
so, okay, question.
Yes.
Do I need to reapply?
Yes, Miss Mackey, you need to reapply.
Go to,
And then,
okay,
and if you wish to reapply, please send me an email so that I can coordinate with our policy advisor so we can send a note over to the governor's office that you want to do that. We have to also do that as well. Okay.
so,
Do you need an
I think-
email? Or can I just tell you?
You can just tell me right now.
Yeah,
Reply.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll do it again too, even though yes, I'll do it, sure.
Okay.
Because my grandchildren, I have 2 gifted grandchildren. One.
Hey,
Okay.
Katie, can you hear me? This is Deanna Miller.
What is
Oh.
that?
Can you
Dr.
all hear
Miller?
me?
I think
Well,
everybody
there's
needs
some
to
feedback.
mute,
Do you have on two devices?
Well, I had to call in,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe I should hang up on my computer. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. It wouldn't let me do audio on the computer, so I called in. I'm willing to serve in a parent capacity or a post-secondary educator capacity or the superintendent capacity. Where do you need me? And I'll do my reapplication stuff. But if you need me in another area, I'm glad to serve in another area. I'm a superintendent now, but I could also do parent or post-secondary. Up to you all. If you need me somewhere else.
Deanna, that's wonderful information to have. And so as we're getting information about others that are applying, we'll keep.
Thank you for letting us know that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Parent or post-secondary. I've written that down, Dr. Miller. Thank you. All right.
Or superintendent. I'll go wherever you need me.
Thank you so much for being so flexible. We really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So are we ready to move along?
I believe so.
On the, it's something that's kind of, music. I don't think it's coming from where I am.
Music? Okay.
So the Craft Academy has Sunshine Stamper with us. She is the Assistant Director of Admissions.
You need somebody?
So are you, and please remember, I can't see folks.
Yes.
Until they're speaking. So are you here and ready to share?
I am here and I am ready.
Great.
Would it be okay if I shared my screen?
Yes, please go ahead and share your screen.
Awesome.
Yes, definitely.
Well, hello, everybody. I am glad to be here with you all. Thank you for having me on board today for the meeting. I am Sunshine, and I cannot find my present button because I never do it in the browser. There we go. I'm here today just to talk to you a little bit about our program. We are located at Morehead State University, and we are a dual credit STEM-focused residential program for students who are applying during their sophomore year and finishing their junior and senior year if selected, living on Morehead State University's campus, taking college courses with other MSU students. There's no cost for tuition, housing, or a meal plan while they're here with us. They get the opportunity to begin work in their anticipated major or take a broad variety of classes to kind of determine what that will be. They do get the experience of living in a diverse residential community and have expanded opportunities for different scholarships after Craft Academy. You may have had students from your district or people that you know that have been here before. We had our first graduating class enter in the year in August in 2015. And we are searching for the class of 2023 right now. You can see on your screen just some of the benefits, expenses that you could expect as a student, and a reminder to any districts out there that the funding the students receive will return back to their home sending school. We are funded separately from state appropriations and a private donation. Our students will take a STEM-focused course load in our bulk of our curriculum being STEM-focused. You can see listed there on the left-hand side of our screen. On the right-hand side, you'll see the broadening opportunities to be able to take courses that fall under the categories of creativity and design, entrepreneurship and innovation, and civic and regional engagement, making that more of a +X-based curriculum.
Just a minute. Your presentation. I don't see your presentation anymore.
No, I don't either. I see a window.
All right. Let's try it over here.
There
you go.
Is it back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. And because our students are 2 years younger and they're living on a college campus, we have a residence hall that is built just for them. It's Grody Thompson Hall. It is located in the center of campus. It has 4 levels there. In the basement level, we have our offices and our assistant director of residence life apartment, and then we have common hangout space for our students, and then the other 3 floors are residential. We do have gender specific floors, and typically all of our students will live in a 2-person room, although we do have a few 3- and 4-person rooms. We are staffed 24/7 with residence counselors and our assistant director of residence life. Our doors alarm at curfew, which is 10 p.m. Saturday or Sunday through Thursday, and 11:30 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. That's a visual check-in with the residence counselor at that time. We know our students are in and safe for the night. We do have cameras in our stairwells and common spaces. Here is an example of a room. We do provide the furniture there on the top of the screen, and our students bring and decorate their own personal items, and they can rearrange those rooms however they would like. And then the next few slides will just cover our common spaces in our building. Typically, these are in our basements. We have a room that's served as their living room. It has 3 big screen TVs, couches, chairs, tables, space to study. We have our solution station, which has a giant whiteboard. We have computers there they can access. They can use that for group study or gaming or projects. The baker space is our built-in kitchen area for our building. And we also host a lot of workshops in this area that students can either host themselves or sign up to participate in. They also have an area. And then we have a maker space, which is a built-in lab in our building that houses 2 3D printers, 2 Cricuts, a heat press, soldering irons, all electronics equipment they would need to solder and work with LEDs. And we have a CNC machine available in there now for either personal projects, class projects, or hosting or attending workshops in the makerspace. And then we have some common hangout space in the first floor lobby with a piano and a foosball table. Our students do have a meal plan, so they'll have the opportunity to eat on campus using their Eagle ID, just like other college students. This is just an example of our 2 eating locations and where they can use their meal plan and their flex dollars. And because they are high school students, we do want to make sure they have the opportunity to keep that high school connection, and we try to merge the high school college bridge as close as possible. So we will have several clubs and organizations that are Craft Academy specific. But our students do have the opportunity to participate in things at the Morehead State level as far as clubs and organizations. They cannot participate in NCAA regulated sports, and they cannot participate in social Greek organizations. So no fraternities, sororities for our students, of course. They do participate in attending sporting events. They have participated in being a leading role in the play, presenting their research, and volunteering at different community events on and off campus in town. And then, of course, they get that opportunity for collegiate level research, special projects, and internships and competitions. And then we also want to make sure that they are having a lot of fun while they're here. We know that this is a big academic leap for these students and that they are 2 years younger, but we do try to keep them having a lot of time to take a break and find that good balance. So we provide weekend and evening activities for our students. Some are STEM focused, some are philanthropic, and some of them are just holiday parties. You can see there, we've had a costume contest. This year has been very unique. Our events have mostly been virtual. They've been really good sports about, for a paint party, they would come down, pick up their supplies, go back to their room. We turn on Zoom and we would do that there. We had a virtual costume contest where we set the camera up and they could walk out the lobby, and then they got to vote online through a poll. But trying to keep things still going, still making those connections and providing those opportunities for our students while we're here. We are working on our education abroad opportunities. Right now, we are covering all of the guidelines coming from the governor and the university. So last year, we didn't get to go on a trip. Typically, we do choose a new location every year, and it's during the summer. It's a STEM-focused opportunity for our students to kind of see the world at a global lens and focus on STEM and other countries. And then here's the important part. So if you have a sophomore right now that you can think of that is getting ready to apply, our application criteria is listed there on the screen. I will say tomorrow is the last day to register for the December ACT test. So if you have a student who hasn't taken the test yet or don't meet the benchmarks on your screen, they do have the opportunity to register through tomorrow. And then MSU's testing center has seats, I'm pretty sure, still available for that test. So if they can't register at their home high school, they can contact me and I can put them in touch with the testing center. And then, so our deadline for our application will be February 1 this year, and February 20th will be our interview day. And then mid-March, we hope to have our selection finalized for our class of 2023. And this just walks kind of through the application process. So if you're supporting a student who's applying or you want to know how the application process goes, they do take the first step to submit their online application, and then they mail in their supplemental items packet. Both must be fully submitted and postmarked no later than that February 1 deadline. And we're hosting virtual visits right now. So every day at 1 o'clock, either Eastern or Central time. So we know that's a pretty good after lunch time period. We keep that open for both Eastern and Central. We will do a virtual visit where we'll go through our in-depth PowerPoint. They'll get to speak with the recruitment team. We've scheduled meetings where student ambassadors come in as well and answer questions. So if you have anybody who would like to sign up for one of those, after Friday, we'll probably move into more of a, this is your steps for your application process, but we'll still be hosting virtual visits. So they still have the opportunity to ask any questions. We can invite parents, students, classes, etc. So just email me. My email address is on the screen there. And I will stop sharing my screen so that I can answer any questions. There we go.
Sunshine, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take notes as we go too. Did you say February 1st is the deadline to apply?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm also curious, it's my understanding that the class size is growing for next year, like the number of admitted students is going to be larger. Is that reality?
Yes, we are going to accept up to 74 students this year, half male, half female.
7.
I will
Your
put
answer
my
to
email
that?
address in the chat in case anybody has any other questions.
I'm assuming that's the same for Gatton Academy, Dr. Roberts.
Which part of it? The February 1st is the same.
All the other qualifications. All the
Very close. Very close.
It's a wonderful program. We had one of our students leave my program to go to craft and graduated a year, maybe two ago. Lily Embry.
Yes.
Loved the program, just thrived there, and she's doing so well in college right now. Her family's we still keep in touch, and it was just an absolutely wonderful experience for her. And so thank you for providing that.
Thank you. Yes, it was awesome to work with Lily Kate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you all for letting me present. If you all have any questions, I put my email address in the chat.
Thank you so much, Sunny.
Thank you.
I think most of you know that I'm executive director of the Gatton Academy, and let me just make a couple of comments. We have had a wonderful residential experience this fall in spite of COVID, and our students have all stayed. They will go home tomorrow, as the university will be holding the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. The classes will all be virtual as we close the semester. And I want to share that we had a red letter day a week ago. We had the chief scientist at NASA speaking to all of the students. And earlier that day, the Gatton Academy had received the award for the outstanding partnership by the National Consortium of Specialized STEM Schools. So we were excited, and you don't have a red letter day every day by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fun to share that when there is one. So the applications for our sophomores are also due February the 1st. And as my staff knows, I often say, remember, an opportunity isn't an opportunity until you know about it. So make sure that you tap the shoulder of sophomores who you think would find the Gatton Academy or the Craft Academy to be just right for them, and share information about the opportunity.
a question, Dr. Roberts.
Yes.
I'm assuming the counselors in the high schools know about this. Are they, do they recommend if they have students that could qualify, or do you know if they don't know about it? I told one parent to have her son talk to the counselor, and I just wonder what would be the avenue if they're not aware of all the opportunities.
Well, the truth of the matter is counselors should know about it. I think this is an incredibly unusual year, and I think that the priorities for what's occupying the minds of folks is really different. So I would encourage you to suggest that someone call the Gatton Academy or the Craft Academy, go online, read about it, and if your questions about Gatton, have them be in touch with me. That'd be fine.
And the address would be Gatton Academy, what?
Just go to, just put in Gatton Academy and it all comes
It'll
up.
come up, okay.
I'm sure the Craft Academy would do that too. Next on the agenda, we have Thomas Klaus and Aaron Chavez with the Kentucky Standards for World Language.
Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to start off allowing me to talk to you. My name is Thomas Klaus. I'm from the Office of Teaching and Learning, Division of Program Standards. And Aaron Chavez is also with me today. She's a program consultant in the Division of Program Standards, Office of Teaching and Learning, and we led the facilitation work on this. So we just wanted to share with you the process for the development of this world language standards and get a little feedback from you all.
Perfect.
So the foundation for this work is found in Kentucky Revised Statute 158.6453, and in that, basically all standards moving forward work on a process of being revised every 6 years, and the standards revision to the content standards shall focus on critical knowledge, skills, capacities needed for success in the global economy. The demand is there's fewer but more in-depth, higher rigor standards that help facilitate mastery learning, and that standards communicate expectations more clearly with all education stakeholders. Furthermore, subsequent standards need to be based on evidence-based research, consider international benchmarks, and ensure alignment and proficiency benchmarks, K to 12. So a little bit about what we call the game board in the Division of Program Standards. This is kind of the process laid out. And so as you can see, this work is largely led by teacher groups. So we have two committees, the advisory panel and the review committee, that lead that work. Those committees were formed for this work last fall, and they met throughout the spring to produce the document that you all have had time to look at today. From here, we'll present to the Kentucky Board of Education, and then in the spring, we'll start the regulatory process of getting these passed. So a little bit about the draft Kentucky Academic Standards for World Language. Again, this process started last fall, where we put out a survey for the document that had been guiding the world language in Kentucky, the Kentucky World Language Proficiency document. Our AP and RC groups were finalized, and they spent the spring semester really developing the document that you have before you today. So a cornerstone of their work. So as the writers came together, they kind of laid the foundation for kind of how what they wanted to be the focus of the draft Kentucky Academic Standards for World Language. And I do want to spend a little bit more time here and get some feedback from you all. So in their vision statement, what they feel like guides this document, they wanted to ensure the document provided equitable opportunities and capabilities to use language and cultural knowledge. So not just that they're learning a language, but they're also interacting with the culture of the target language, and understanding that culture here is nuanced. So just because you learn about Spanish, you're learning about Spanish, whether that's in Madrid, whether that's in Tenerife, or whether that's in Argentina. So the nuance of that as well, ensuring a rich exposure and understanding of both people, places, practices of the target culture. So again, focusing not just on language, but also on culture. Furthermore, really empowering students to be deep thinkers, inquirers, empathetic, and good communicators. And then lastly, and this is kind of the main crux for the writers, they said, was to push the focus of culture to the core of the language learning experiences, ensuring that language learning isn't happening in a vacuum. And so what I would like to do, and Aaron, if you don't mind to put the guiding questions in the chat box, I would like to give you all just a minute or so to kind of read through the vision statement. And we have a couple guiding questions we'd like some feedback from you on. One, whether or not you agree with the vision statement laid out by the writers. And two, are there areas or pieces of this vision statement that you feel should be more pronounced, or I don't want to say more important, but more clearly articulated in the document or future materials with implementation?
Language.
All right, Thomas, I just stuck them in the chat box.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome.
I didn't get that part.
So just wanted to see if you agree with the statement that the writers came up with. These are world language teachers, working throughout the state. Do you agree with their kind of vision statement here? And are there pieces of it you feel should be more prominent than others?
Well, is there particular languages?
So this would encompass any foreign language, yeah. And so I say that, and Aaron, also feel free to chime in, but also it's it's our modern world language, classical language, but also the writers pay homage to making sure that these align to American Sign Language as well.
So classical language like Latin and
Yes.
that's good.
I'm wondering about the order of the bullets.
Yes.
Which of these is the most important bullet to you?
So
They're
I
all
think
important. They're all important. I understand that. But is there one bullet more important than the other?
yeah, and I think that's one of the things we would love to hear from you. I think that that's one of the things our teacher writers would like to hear about. You know, I think I can get a sense of kind of what they may think, but would love to hear from you all about that.
I'm wondering if bullet number 3 shouldn't be bullet number 1. Your whole purpose is students, empowering students
to become individuals.
Yeah, starting off with empowering the students and then having that be kind of the main impetus.
And then also the second one should be ensure, as it is second, a rich exposure. Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, I agree totally.
And perhaps it's the old English teacher in me that's encouraging me to say 3 is really a mix of nouns and adjectives. Inquirers, risk takers, communicators, but empathetic and reflexive are adjectives by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think they were just trying to make it actionable for sure for students.
Yes.
When the writers were coming up, yes.
As I stated in the chat, I love the focus on cultural competency. I think that in years past, many world language programs, it was just on the speaking of the language and not necessarily focusing on the culture behind the language or that in concert with the language. And I love that that's emphasized with this.
Yeah, I think that was that was a lot of conversations with the teacher writers was about that very thing, and also thinking about culture in this sense of ensuring that culture is not treated as a monolith and that there's nuance even within a culture. Not everybody speaks Spanish the same way, not everybody speaks English the same way, so, and not even thinking about sign language, not everybody signs the same way. So they did really deep thinkers. I think Aaron and I facilitated this, and we just really appreciated listening to the intentionality of the teacher writers as they work through this.
Yeah, they were truly they were rock stars. They did a really nice job.
Yes, that's good.
Are there any other thoughts or kind of lingering ideas about the pertaining to the writer's vision statement? I think it's always hard to judge wait time in a virtual setting, so just want to make sure that I'm not rushing or anything.
Well, I certainly think this is important, and I thank you for bringing it to our advisory council for feedback.
Thank you. And I do apologize for not starting with my video on. I was so ready to share the screen that's just one thing I forgot. So it's on now. All right. A couple other highlights within this document. So the writers really wanted to make sure that they were drawing on established proficiency levels and can-do statements. So they cite a lot of the national organizations' work on world language standards. So that would be the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Language and also the National Council of State Supervisors for Foreign Language. They use a lot of their documents as a framework for providing that really well thought out proficiency level that goes from novice to advanced. The writers also wanted to ensure that cultural appropriate verbal and nonverbal skills to build relationships with people of different cultures were embedded within sample learning targets. And again, they really wanted to intentionally push the focus of culture to the core of language learning. Furthermore, the writers really wanted to ensure that sample learning targets provided an example of how teachers could incorporate other parts of the standards, such as building connections, comparisons, and communities. And again, the writers really wanted to ensure that this document aligned with American Sign Language and American Sign Language national standards. We'll turn it over to Aaron Chavez to talk a little bit about the architecture of the document.
Okay, and one more question.
Yes.
Now, of course, every school system is not going to have access to every language or a person that can teach that language. So a lot of this will probably be done virtually as well. You know, like let's say Chinese. We had a teacher that was from China and she did teach Chinese to our school system, but she moved back to China. So how do you plan to facilitate this?
Thomas, do you want to start and then I can jump in, or?
Yeah, go ahead and start, Aaron. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, Ms. Mackey. So world language programs, that is a school-based decision, an SBDM. So you are correct. Not all schools will have a world language program. And I know Thomas also works with the J1 visas. So he helps with international teachers to also come over and help teach in Kentucky classrooms. So I know that's a part of some work at the department as well. But as far as world language programs, that's something that parents and students can advocate for at their site-based council.
And Aaron, to add on just with the J1 program. So at the State Department, we do have and run a visiting teacher program. It's now called Bridge USA. And we do work with the University of Kentucky and also the Ministry of Education and Sport in Spain to provide teachers who are trained in Spanish or Chinese to school districts in the state. And we are also partnering with other sponsoring agents of programs to allow for more access to those things. But again, the big thing is that people are advocating for that at the local level. Thank you for the question.
Oh, that's good. That's private. I want private schools.
All right.
Thomas, can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry, Aaron.
No, yes, go ahead.
Trying to take notes and just want to make sure I capture it correctly. So Thomas, did you just say that the department is working with several organizations to bring teachers from other countries to help with world language programs?
So yeah, so schools in Kentucky have the opportunity to partner with the Kentucky Department of Education, and we work with the Exchange Visitor Program, which is a federal program. And our partnerships are with the education or the Ministry of Education and Sport from Spain. So they allow us to bring teachers over from Spain to teach Spanish in Kentucky. And we also work with the Confucius Institute at the University of Kentucky. And that allows us to bring over teachers who are able to teach Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other groups that we are also working with. So while we're the primary sponsoring agent for those groups, we also work with other sponsoring agent groups, such as Cordell Hull, that can bring over teachers who could be like a Spanish teacher from Argentina or things like that. So we're trying to expand that program just for more access.
Thank you.
All right, so on the screen, you probably can't read that because it's very small. I can't read that, but it's just a sample of how to read the standards, the draft Kentucky Academic Standards for World Language. And the teachers, writers wanted to include some key components as they designed the architecture for these standards. They wanted to ensure that all shareholders were able to have access and for it to be user-friendly, especially for students and teachers. So you have goal areas, basically surrounded with intercultural communication and communication. And then you have the standards and the mode of communication. Then it goes into some guiding questions, which really support students and teachers on what they should expect to be doing and for proficiency levels. 3 different proficiency benchmarks, which are novice, intermediate, and advanced. And then those are subdivided into other categories. And then the teacher writers also wanted to include sample learning targets. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. It's just some examples of how to also embed the other components of the other goal areas, which are communities, connections, and
Comparisons.
communities, connections, and what am I missing, Thomas?
Comparisons.
Comparisons. Yeah, I knew that there were 3 C's. So they embedded those within the sample learning targets. Again, this is another, and Thomas, you're fine. Just another example of how to read the standards page. And I think that's it, unless you all have questions on how to read those.
When do these new standards go into effect? So, what's the goal?
So the goal is it goes through the first read to the board in December, so next month. And if they accept those as is, then it'll go through start the regulatory process. They'll have to go through statements of consideration, and then there's quite a few next steps. So possibly next year. It just depends. It depends on if it can make it all the way through the regulatory process.
So your goal is fall of 2021, if possible.
I think so.
Fall of
Correct, Thomas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And so a public comment survey has been sent out. And so these are the draft Kentucky Academic Standards for World Language. So in September and October, an independent group put out a survey to get feedback on these standards. And as you can imagine, a draft World Language Standards document received the most feedback from world language teachers, but we also had a smattering of general teachers and other people who are education stakeholders, including administrators, parents, and community members. One of the big initial findings from this was that from that survey data, 74% of respondents said accept the document as is, while 26% said they had some additional comments for NRC, the writers, to think about. So we'll go a little bit more in depth in kind of what they thought about. So one of the things that the writers did in response to comment was really streamline and simplify the document. And that included italicizing text for the sample learning targets to make those stand out a little bit more and more clear. They really wanted to place the intercultural communication standards before the communication standards, just to show that intercultural kind of embodied it all. And then really the last part was they responded to comments about providing a framework for investigation and interaction standards by really hitting the ideas of learning about those things through products and practices and languages and behaviors. So they provided a framework within the document to really think about providing feedback or providing a way to teach that to students. As you can imagine, we want to get as much feedback as we can on these documents. So we are going before different advisory councils, and we are specifically looking to get more student feedback. So we are going to put on a focus group with students in Fayette County, world language students in Fayette County, to get their feedback. And we have also done a focus group with the Kentucky World Language Association. We have a very strong world language advocacy group in our state, And so it was very important to us to make sure that we receive feedback from them on this document as well. So I know that organically, and I like organically, we had questions go throughout, but just wanted to see what other questions that you all had today.
Thank you for your hard work on this.
Well, Aaron and I got to facilitate this, but the hard work was all teachers in our state. We have a really strong world language community in our state, and they did an amazing job on this.
Yeah, I would agree, Thomas. They really had some deep insight and worked really hard. Yeah.
And we're really appreciative of the fact you brought the draft to our advisory council so that we're informed.
Thank you all so much.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda has my name with it, and that is to look at equity or the lack of equity in gifted and talented programs in the state. And Kathy, I think you had suggested there's a Padlet here that people could use. Is that correct?
Yes, there was a Padlet. I'm looking to see if anybody besides Katie had a chance to use the Padlet. But I'll share with you guys what I can see here. And then maybe also, Dr. Roberts, you and I can kind of, I've got kind of a Word document open to write down some thoughts to brainstorm to kind of kick us off on kind of an equity. Let me just share my screen with you here. Can y'all see the Padlet? It says it's loading.
Yeah,
I can see it.
I saw it.
Okay. Okay. So I kind of So Padlet is just a graphic way to collect ideas, Miss Mackey. And so in order to use it, I tried to give y'all some instructions, and maybe they weren't very clear, and I apologize for that. In order to use it, down here in the right hand corner is a little plus sign, and if you just click on the plus sign, a text box will come up, and then you can just write your name at the top, like I could put you know, and then you could write whatever you wanted to put here, your thoughts about equity, either in your region or our state, you know, what you think the barriers would be, with the challenges, that type of thing. As you can see, Katie Booth utilized the Padlet here, and she said, collaboration is needed with our nutrition and food services colleagues to gain insight on low socioeconomic students. Free and reduced lunch students are underrepresented, and more education about special considerations for this group is key. So Katie, I want to thank you for those comments. Do you have anything else you'd like to kind of say about your comment there?
Well, you know, I feel like special considerations is the way to make sure that we're being equitable with GT. But the regulation around knowing whether or not students are eligible for free and reduced lunch makes that a little bit difficult. I feel like it's almost reliant on whether or not the teacher happens to know that a student qualifies. So I don't know what how the legalities of that system work, but I would love to see more open sharing of students free and reduced lunch status for GT staff members who are doing that identification process, just because it would be so helpful to make sure that we're being fair.
Yes, I've heard that over the years too, that it's hard to know whether or not a student is on free or reduced lunch status because of the privacy that surrounds that particular point of a student. And Dr. Miller, do you have any light you can share on that for us?
No, not really. I can hardly hear you all. It's going in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry about that. So can you hear
Okay.
me now?
Yeah, better.
So one of the questions that came up, or what someone felt was a barrier, was how to know if a student is a free and reduced lunch student, because as you probably know, that's not something that everyone's given access to. Do you have any comments about that? Because I know, you being the superintendent of a district, you might have more information about that for us.
Yeah, it has to be marked, in Infinite Campus. But the only person that has that information now, we used to all have it, but now is the food service director. And she can see that report. So I guess it would depend on your relationship with the food service director or what the district allows. But the gifted coordinator should be able to go to the food service director and get a list, or perhaps take a list of gifted students from that school and just have the food service director perhaps highlight the ones that receive free and reduced lunch.
That's good information to have, Dr. Miller. I hadn't ever really thought about that. I mean, I guess I knew that they were the ones that had access to that information. So it would be really important to have a good working relationship with your food service person, and for them to understand, I guess, the purpose of you wanting to know, if a student had qualified for free and reduced lunch.
Yeah. And probably the best way to do that is to present the list of gifted students and then just ask for her input on those instead of asking for the entire list of free and reduced students.
Yeah.
Right.
That way you're not finding out about confidential information for any student other than the ones you serve.
Right. So I think that's a good comment, Katie, that you put there and that you responded to, Dr. Miller, that it seems like it's a good workaround to take the list of potential gifted and talented students. So you wouldn't take the whole kitchen sink to that person, just those that had been referred, and then they could comment on that. So that is a good workaround. So thank you for that. Any other comments about? Yes, go ahead.
When I was on the executive board of the Kentucky School Board Association, that was a big discussion about whether teachers should know which students were on free lunch. And, they were both sides. Some felt like they might treat the children different if they knew, others felt like they should know. So I guess, according to Dr. Miller, they decided not to allow the teachers to, and it may depend on the school system as well, whether they decide to allow the teachers to have that information. So I'm just giving you a background. That's been about 6 years ago when that was a big discussion. A lot of people were involved in that school board.
Yes.
Different school boards across the state.
Thank you for that background information, Ms. Mackey. That's good to know. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to say about that? Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen here with you. Well, actually, I think I can just ask the question. So in our state, we've had a renewed conversation about equity across all programs, not just for the gifted and talented program. But I think it's really important for us as the State Advisory Council, and I'm sure that all of you would agree, that it's very important to us to maybe kind of take an audit or a look at, what's going on in our program. Are there any barriers? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? Who should we contact to talk more about this information? What can we do to make our program more equitable for everybody in our state? And so I just think it would be good for us to maybe here at our meeting today, just to kind of take a beginning stab at having an audit. So what do y'all feel are the strengths for our program as far as equity? What do you think that we've got going for us that makes them equitable? You can just raise your hand if you want.
Are you speaking in terms of individual programs or the gifted and talented program at this, as a whole in the state?
I think as a whole, probably, but you could also pare it down to just your district if you want to talk about that, Carla, since you're kind of representing, a region as well as a visual and performing arts. So however you want to talk about it.
Okay. Well, I think one of the strengths is that, of course, that it's an important enough aspect of education to have an advisory council, to have a dedicated KDE position, to have state regulations. So, I mean, I think that's definitely a strength. That is something that we can always refer back to, something that we can always, it ensures continuity.
Yes.
It ensures continuity, throughout as much as can be, throughout the state. For one, in Fayette County, over the last few years has made a concerted effort to reach out to underrepresented populations. And I'm not just talking socioeconomically or ethnically underrepresented population, but also underrepresented areas of giftedness, specifically visual and performing arts, creativity, leadership, the non-cognitive areas that don't have a corresponding necessarily a widely used academic testing. The areas that require different types of identification. I'm really, really pleased with what Fayette County's been doing with that, and that they are reaching out and looking to increase identification numbers in those areas.
And I think a strength would be that we do identify in 5 areas.
Yes.
Instead of one way to identify children.
Absolutely.
And we test the general population with aptitude tests in the school, correct? Still?
We should. Yes, we should.
Some districts do, some districts do not. Some districts just identify students who are, it's not a everybody gets tested. It's who they want to test or who they think should be eligible for testing. And then there are other districts who test everybody.
So universal screening is a strength where we have it.
Yes.
It is a barrier when we do not have it in a district.
Correct.
Because you find, yes.
I think the fact that the regulation does have a place for special needs and identification there, or an alternative way of identifying kids, it at least recognizes it, and that gives some flexibility as to how we do it.
I think it is a strength that there is funding at the state level, but it is a barrier that the funding has remained the same, or pretty much the same, for 3 decades.
We used to do a lot of additional funding on our own, Do you remember that, Dr. Roberts?
I do. And lots of districts do that.
I don't see it as much anymore, but that was always, it was involving everyone, the parents and the teachers, in raising the money, which was a good thing, I think.
Dr. Miller? Dr.
Yeah,
Miller? We can't hear you. Your voice is
sounds like
it's real high pitched or something.
it sounds like a cartoon character.
I know. If you want, maybe you could try again, or maybe type in the chat there, you know, some of your main points that you want to say. I'm so sorry about that. That's got to be really frustrating to want to say something and not be able to. While Dr. Miller's saying something in the chat there, is there somebody else that wanted to say something about, you know, just kind of as we take stock of the gifted program in our state, anything that you wanted to say about strengths or weaknesses or any of those two things?
I think a weakness right now, and it's not statewide, but I think one of the barriers for some families is communication about what gifted and talented options are available for their children, so that parents can become really true advocates for their child. They may not know what options exist in school districts. I've had, you know, with my program SCAPA in Fayette County, I mean, I'm heavily involved in the application process. That's what I'm one of my big jobs is I manage that. And we are well known in the community and well known in the state for being a GT program for visual and performing arts. But every year I get emails from parents saying, I've just now heard about this. I've been in Fayette County for years and I'm just now hearing about your program, and how do I get my child involved in it? And it's too late because of deadlines and or other reasons. And, you know, we try to do everything we can to put information out there, but there's still people that are not being reached. And I know it's not just with me, it's with GT programs throughout the state. So how, I think one of the things we need to just address, not necessarily solve, because I don't think we can solve it, but just to put it out there, is that how do we encourage parents, or how do we communicate with parents to let them know what options are out there for them to pursue for their own children? And I think that that can be a barrier. If they don't know what it is and they're relying on maybe a piece of paper coming home from school that gets lost in a backpack and isn't seen for 6 months, and deadlines are passed and the child is not receiving options because they're being a child and didn't communicate something home with their parents. I mean, what can we do? And I know there's very strong parent organizations for gifted and talented within the state. However, that's a small percentage of parents who are actively involved in that. So I think that's something that we need to address.
I agree.
Another thing when we talk about underrepresented populations is to look at the students who are twice exceptional. To look at those students who are special needs students who exhibit giftedness as well. That may not be something that is looked at because the focus may be on helping with, for lack of a better word, deficit areas rather than areas of strength. So to really, you know, look for those students who are twice exceptional and provide for those gifted needs as well.
I think another group of students that we really haven't paid much attention to are the rural gifted. Rural gifted around the state, we treat just as gifted without realizing that they may not have the access to resources that other areas, more urban areas would have.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of far western Kentucky and far eastern Kentucky, especially. There is a lack of access to resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. True. So, data elements do you think we might need to look at in order to maybe dig a little deeper into some of these concerns that we might have?
Well, I think one of the things that April Wells' workshop that she presented through Cage brought up was the fact that we need to look at language and the messages that words have, that it's very possible that we've gotten used to using without really understanding the implications or the hurt that goes along with those words.
So a review of documents looking at the words that are there and the meanings that are implied or conveyed.
I guess that's just being updated, perhaps, with an eye to equity.
I remember a couple of years back on our advisory council, we had a presentation that was very powerful that was looking at the different areas of giftedness and their percentages of students identified in gifted areas throughout the state, in comparison with population groups.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a couple of years ago. It would be nice, it would be interesting to see, and I don't even know if we can get access to that data again, but maybe compare it to what current numbers look like. Are we seeing an increase in identifications in areas that are underrepresented? Or are we seeing differences in percentages of populations as we saw a couple of years ago? It'd be nice to see some data over time.
Yes, it would. And I think, to me, that also brings up the idea of the excellence gap data. So my message is often we don't have nearly enough kids achieving at advanced levels because we're kind of stuck on getting kids to grade level or proficiency.
That's right.
So
Right.
let's look at data for our state with those who are achieving at advanced levels. I think overall that's probably a pretty low percentage, but of that percentage, what percentage of those would be those same groups that we've looked at for the achievement gap? And I think that's shocking information when you see it. We've seen it. I haven't seen anything for 18-19, but I've seen it for other years in other states and across the country, and it's shocking.
I just think if we're talking about equity, I know that districts have been putting things into place. I know the state has been KDE has been putting more information out there. I just think it would be good to look to see if there's been an impact on these things that have been put out. The work that this council has done with guidance documents and recent webinars, things like that. Are they having the impact that we want them to have? And I think that one way to measure that would be to see what the numbers are looking like of children who are participating in gifted and talented programs throughout the state, and maybe disaggregate it down to regions as well. Are we finding that some regions are stagnant in their percentages of identifications, or in various disaggregated groups, or are some regions showing growth? I know that sometimes you have program availability issues where there's enrollment caps and things due to staffing or due to, district guidance or whatever. But I would just like to see if progress is being made to address issues, and where the data is flat, where the data is stagnant or going in a deficit direction, I think will give us some insight of areas that maybe need to be priorities for us.
One way I kind of look at the school system, how many national merit scholars or finalists or semifinalists the system has. Now that's a very limited look at, but I think that's basically, that is something that is available, but it's such a small amount of students that it's not a good indication. But that's one thing I kind of always look at our systems, and that's probably not very good. But I know if you don't have any in a particular year, there's something wrong in a fairly large school system. That's what I'm saying. Is that a terrible way to look at it?
No. It's one indicator.
Yes, one indicator. No, yeah, that's definitely true.
Well, I think this is a conversation we'll want to continue at our next meeting, and maybe we can think of
ways to judge.
Yeah, perhaps some indicators that we could access that would indicate status at the present time, whether it's progress, we hope, or whether it isn't.
Dr. Miller also put in the chat, she said, I think we should be able to get a K-Prep scoring report for gifted students across the state. Are they scoring high? If not, are we failing them?
That's good.
And then also said, someone said, in taking the PSAT costs money, so it's limiting for poor communities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of times the PSAT or the ACT, if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, you have the opportunity to do that at a reduced or no cost.
Yes.
But once again, the student needs to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I agree with you, Dr. Roberts. This is a good way to begin our equity audit, and I can look into trying to collect some of this data to give us more information to inform our conversation for next time. And I'll be in touch with you to see, to let you know what I've been able to find out and what data I've been able to collect.
I think another source of information is the NAEP data. And I know it's been reported recently, and I think as I was looking at the Pritchard Committee's recent report, I think it says that only 26% of Kentucky's 8th graders scored at a proficient level or above on math with NAEP. And of course, NAEP is the national report card. So we'll check out what I'm telling you there. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
and
a couple of other.
I'm sorry.
A couple of other things in the chat. Sorry, then you can go ahead, Carla.
I apologize.
Someone said about the K-Prep. No, don't apologize. You're fine. That taking, let's see, I think they will only pay for standardized tests a few times, however, and then another comment that the voucher is only good for one time. So that's good information to know as well. Carla, back to you.
It's okay. It wasn't major.
Oh,
Middle
sorry.
income.
No, I was just saying that, you know, and we're talking about equity, and we're leaving out the elephant in the room right now. What our children receiving during virtual learning is not what they're normally used to getting, and we're all trying to do our best. And so numbers, you know, this year, I mean, they're not even. We are going through our SCAPA identification process. We're having virtual auditions on Saturday for our first day, but as far as, you know, and that's in preparation for students coming in next year, hopefully back into in-person, but it's been very difficult to provide services for kids virtually. So, and there's a lot of districts, we haven't been given permission in Fayette County. We test every third grader.
Mm-hmm.
Every third grader receives academic testing, but they're not doing that yet in Fayette County because we haven't figured out a way to do it virtually, because it's an in-person test. And so that's becoming an issue as far as identification this year. And I know if Fayette County's having issues with it, everybody's having issues with it.
Right.
So it's, you know, data for this year is going to be skewed as far as if there's any growth in identification this year, but we could, you know, look up till last year.
Yes.
You know, something to think about, and I hadn't thought about that till I was in a meeting for councils of state directors of programs for the gifted. One of the state directors said, you know, it would be a good time for us to look at our special education students, that they probably already have data that's on file because all of them go through some sort of a cognitive assessment, or most of them do. And so it'd be a good opportunity for us to reach out to our directors of special education programs to see if there's any students that have maybe some discrepancy between maybe their processing speed and their verbal acuity, or their, you know, quantitative problem solving skills. Another thing they said, it'd be a good opportunity to look at your EL population, that they probably already have assessment as well, and can also be telling you, you know, who is grasping the English language or whatever language quicker, who is excelling, even though maybe they are a, you know, another language learner who's doing well in school. So this might be a good opportunity to kind of press pause on maybe some of the other assessment, but to take a deeper dive into maybe looking at those two subgroups or two underrepresented groups. And I think that was a really good conversation.
Excellent.
And even though we can't, you know, necessarily have everybody tested at the same time, we do have guidance that says that we can, you know, schedule students to come in to take tests. No, that's probably really hard, and there's probably a lot of different procedures and processes that go on in that way. But that is something to think about, is that people can schedule kiddos to come in to school, and then those students who can't come in for one reason or another, to catch them up at another time. So I know there's a lot of things on people's plates, but that's just something to think about that can be done. So just thought I'd just give a plug about that. Yeah.
Those are good ideas. We haven't completed a discussion of equity. We've only begun. At the moment, Lynette, would you share with us information about what CAGE has planned as opportunities?
We're still working on our annual conference and getting it set up, and most of the work right now is in the planning phase for that. We are doing a virtual conference February the 23rd and 24th. It will have the same elements, but they will look a little different from past conferences. We're going to have 3 keynotes this time instead of 2. Our first opening keynote will be Dr. Joseph Renzulli, who's truly a giant in the field of gifted education. So I'm very pleased to have him open the conference on the first day.
Oh, that's cool.
Second day is going to be, I'm pretty sure we're just down to the final details in our negotiating, but I think our second day will be Dr. Joy Lawson Davis, she will open. She is one who works heavily in diversity and equity, and this is going to be an underlying theme throughout our conference. And then to end the conference, our keynote speaker will be Colin Seal. If you were at the conference last year and you heard Colin, you know what a dynamic speaker he is. And
Yes.
so he will end the conference, and afterwards there will be a book signing. And I thought, a virtual book signing? This is going to be interesting. But there is a way that he can do it. So we're planning on that happening. The other sessions that we are, oh, and you should have if you're a CAGE member, and I think we have the advisory council down there. We've gotten postcards this year that we sent out with the information about how to access the conference. Our first day of the conference is always longer sessions than our second day. They're more in-depth. So right now, the folks that we have scheduled to present are Dr. Emily Mofield will work in the area of curriculum differentiation. She did our summer conference. And if you attended the summer conference, you know how well she did there. And we're hoping that she will continue to do 2 sessions for us that will be well representative of what you can do with differentiating curriculum. And then Dr. Roberts and daughter Julie are going to present a session. Julia, what's the title of the book you're using there?
It's Teacher's Survival Guide, Gifted Education, and this will be a basic session for someone who's new to gifted, or pretty new.
I will go.
And we need that. We have a lot of new people in the field who are here. And then Allison and Daniel Bemis from Bowling Green are going to do a session with technology. They have a web page where they have helps and all for people, and so they're going to bring their talents to the CAGE conference. Dr. Debbie Daly will be there with technology and science. She's going to focus on STEM issues. And then I'm hoping that Dr. Joy Lawson Davis will do a session for us. That's still part of the programming we're looking for. That's what we have so far. Now, the second day is our short session, and these are mostly 50-minute sessions. This is where I hope, Joe, that you'll apply with your future city work and be a part of it there. We will have 1 2-hour session, I hope, on equity and looking at culture and making sure that we pay attention to cultural responsiveness when we're dealing with our gifted children and planning for them. So hers will be a 2-hour session, I think, 1.5 hours to 2-hour session. And that will be the second day. We are having an administrators institute, but we're having it so that we hope to draw more administrators in that way. It will be February the 9th. And Dr. Roberts and Dr. Michael Broadbent will be the moderators for the day. We are now accepting nominations for awards for our service and advocacy awards, as well as the CAGE Distinguished Student Award. And those are all on our webpage at gifted.org. On the opening page, there's a box there that talks about the CAGE conference and click here. Well, if you click there, it takes you to all of the information about the conference with the call for proposals, the awards, and the exhibit page. Now, we are having an exhibit hall. Ways for exhibitors to share their products with us. Proof Rock and Gifted Unlimited are going to be sponsors for the conference, as well as the Center for Gifted Studies. So Proof Rock and Gifted Unlimited are presenting Keynoters. The Center for Gifted Studies is our presenting sponsor. CEC Tag is also a presenting sponsor, is also Catch sponsor, and they will sponsor Debbie Daly, and we hope Javetta Jones Roberson. We also have a partnership with Renzulli Learning. Let me share with you what Renzulli Learning is going to offer our participants. It's really a great deal. Just for signing up to attend the CAGE conference, Renzulli Learning will provide CAGE family parent members with 1 year of free access to the Renzulli Learning Home Edition. It's a $49 value, and it will be free for CAGE membership there at the conference. They'll provide CAGE teacher members with a 6-month free trial of Renzulli Learning for up to 100 students and access to enrichment for all students. And it includes 9 contact hours from the University of Connecticut and is valued at $1,000. Then that's what they'll have for the participants. And I think that's a pretty great deal for participants. So we're welcoming that partnership with Renzulli Learning. Is Sunshine still on?
Yes, I think she was.
Sunshine.
No, it looks like she's has had to leave us.
Okay, well, I'll reach out to Sunshine. It is a virtual conference, and this is this is our first virtual conference of this nature. We did 2 Zoom conferences earlier in the year, and they went very well. So it's taking a team of us to work through the CAGE annual conference to get it up and running the way we want it. And I hope that as you go out in your districts, in your areas of influence, that you can help us spread the word about the CAGE conference. It's at cagegifted.org, and you can find all of the information there. I'm working on the registration right now. I can't really put the registration out until I have all of our Tuesday presenters lined up, and I like too having them all lined up. So we're about ready to go live with registration. Do you have any questions or any comments about what we're offering? Any suggestions for something really neat to add to the conference?
How do you distribute this information to the different school systems? And do you do it by way of Google or I mean alerts? How do you do that?
We use 2 listservs. Well, at least 2 listservs. We have the CAGE listserv, and we'll use KGAT. We'll do that through the CAGE newsletter. And then on KGAT, there are some specialized listservs like to Kentucky principals or Kentucky teachers of English or teachers of math, and we will advertise through that as well. And we also advertise through word of mouth, like advisory council members going out and talking about it. And Kathy is good to help spread it too within her network. So we use as many networks as we can to help get the word out.
Thank you for that update, Lynette. So I've got about 2:37 on the clock here, and we've got a special speaker.
And we're ready.
Yes.
Okay, Kate. Okay. Let's
And David Malonti, and am I pronouncing that correctly?
That is correct.
Well, it's good news. We're glad you're here. We want to welcome you, and we're eager to hear what you have to say about federal funding and any connections there are with gifted opportunities.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of connections through conversations today. My name is David Malonti. I'm the Assistant Director in the Division of School and Program Improvement. We administer several of the programs under the Every Student Succeeds Act. And what I've done today is I've put together a little cheat sheet that I don't know if Kathy's distributed, but she's more than welcome to.
Okay.
Just to talk through some of the connections between, oops, not that one. Some of the connections between gifted and talented programs and hold on, I'm trying to share my screen here. It's going crazy. And those federal programs. So it's really a couple pages. Kathy, can you see that okay?
Yes, David, I was trying to send out what you said I could send out. Yes, I can see it well. Thank you.
So I think what my purpose is today, I think I'm going to go through the different programs. Some of these we administer, some of them we don't, and just talk about the purpose. What I've asked our program staff to do is to go through each one of the programs, and for the ones that they oversee is to give me the purpose in their own words. So what's the program purpose? And then I've asked them a question at the on the third column: can this program benefit gifted and talented students in programs, and if so, how? So as I'm going through the program purpose, take just a second to scan through the third column where that question is answered, and then we'll kind of circle back to that in just a few minutes. So I'll give you an idea which ones of these programs we administer in my division directly, and then the ones that I don't. Title I Part A is one of those programs. That is one of the programs that every district in the state receives. This program it's really called Improving Basic Programs, but it's funded in part based on low income status. But the purpose of that program is actually to serve kids that are lowest achieving. I think sometimes people get that confused with serving kids that are high poverty, but that is not the case. It could be highly affluent students that actually are served through that program, but that are failing to meet state academic standards. I think what you'll notice as we go through, several of these programs are really geared towards special populations. And Title I Part C, which is in my division, is one of those. This program is designed to meet the supplemental needs of migrant students. Those are students who travel from district to district or even across state lines in search of agricultural opportunities. So they're moving with their families based on agricultural seasons, if you will, and may end up in different districts at different points in the year. Title I Part D is another one of those programs that is in our division, and this program serves neglected and delinquent students specifically. Those are students that have been abandoned or neglected, or that have been adjudicated to serve time in a detention center or potentially even in adult prison. There are two sides to this program. One is we fund programs through juvenile detention centers and the Department of Corrections to serve those adjudicated students. And then on the part of that program is used to serve at-risk youth through locally operated programs. A lot of times that comes in the form of serving students or districts contracting with neglected facilities, for example, to provide instructional supports and systems to those facilities. But it could also be used to serve and fund at-risk programs at the district level itself. Title II Part A is one of the programs not in our division, but I've worked directly with this program before. The purpose of Title II Part A is to ensure that every student has effective teachers in all their classrooms. And the way they do that is through this program allows districts to provide professional development on a needs-based issue they have. It allows districts to hire teachers to reduce class sizes. And it also allows districts to do some recruiting and retention activities to hire the best teachers they can find, and that may include travel across the nation to try to lure teachers within or to their districts.
So, may I ask a question here?
Sure.
Would this be a place where professional development for equity training for gifted teachers, would this be a place where it would fit in?
Yeah, I think what you'll notice is through the third column, you're going to probably find that there are a couple ways that gifted programs can be served, and that's one, to ensure that gifted and talented students are correctly identified and served through professional development opportunities for staff, but also to prepare lower achieving students in many cases to participate in gifted, talented, or higher level programs. I will say in most of the applications that we see, those are not typically uses that districts are connecting with. So,
are districts aware that they can?
Yes, they are. We publish different guidance documents, connect them to guidance documents, provide training. We provide handbooks for all the programs. So yes, they are aware that those are allowable uses.
So if someone within a district wanted to use Title II funds to for training or to help identify and serve students who are gifted from, let's say, our underserved population, then they would need to contact the federal program officer in their district and begin advocating?
Yeah, generally what each of these programs do, except for one of them, I think, is they are completing an application in which they tell us what types of services and needs are going to, what types of needs they're going to be meeting and how they're going to provide those services. You know, if we do that through an electronic system, so if the district wants to include that, that is where they would include those activities for approval by the state level.
And is that done once a year with a plan?
Sure. So that the actual program application is opened up it's open all the time, but we force them to do some initial applications in the spring, and then they have to revise that in the fall, at least those 2 times. But that application system is open for them to revise at any point during the year.
And in the spring, the deadline will be what?
It varies year to year based on the issuance of federal allocations. Generally, that's March to April, maybe even into early May, but that's when we ask them to turn those in. Our goal is to get those approved by July 1st, which doesn't always happen with every district, but July 1st, if they have an approved application, they may begin to spend those federal allocations.
I've always said that if you had a good gifted program in elementary school, you might find many potential gifted students that might be on the wrong path. And if you can get them on the right path, they might not end up being criminals, or so to speak, because many of them you can tell, are very highly intelligent. But they
right. And that's one of the purposes that was intentionally written into the Every Student Succeeds Act, to allow for and recognize that is an allowable use for these federal programs. So that is correct.
That is excellent.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on just a little bit. Title III is in my division. The purpose of that program is to fund services specifically for English language learners. So those kids that may come from other countries with little to no language experience, English language experience. So the goal is to help them obtain that experience and then exit them from the program, really would be the goal of that program.
Title III.
Title IV, Part A, the purpose of this program, which this program particularly is not in our division, but the program is to ensure that students obtain access to a well-rounded education across multiple disciplines, to improve conditions for learning, and then improve access and use to technology, which, this is a perfect example of a year where technology would definitely comes into use and play. This particular program we do not administer overseas, so there are specifics about how much of the funds that a district receives that can be used for each of those things, and I can't answer that right offhand, but there are some limitations. I think you'll see in this program, it's not as directed towards a specific student group. So there might be a little more wide-ranging activities that could be implemented within this program specifically. So all the programs so far that you've seen, except for Title I, Part C, all those other programs we include in one comprehensive application where we've asked districts to go in and make some connections across programs and then tell us how they're going to use those funds to meet needs across the district. Title I, Part C is not included in there, and then neither is Title IV, Part B, which is most commonly known as 21st Century Community Learning Centers. This particular program is a competitive application in which we have just posted our application for on the KDE website, but districts compete for a limited pool of funds within this program. For the most part, these programs serve kids after school with after-school programming. Generally serve a meal during that program, and again, it's targeted toward lowest achieving students. So, if you have somebody who might be gifted and talented and somebody recognizes that on staff, but they're just not good at doing homework, this is a place where those kids could be assigned or could sign up for, and they could get homework assistance, things that would help them be successful in the general classroom, that they could see that, hey, I can do this, and then maybe those types of kids could be recruited into it and identified for GT services.
Yeah.
Last but not least, the other program, the last program that is in our division is Title IV, Part A, and I heard some talk about rural programs. This particular program is geared toward meeting the needs of rural and low-income districts. So a district that qualifies has to meet both of those categories. They have to be rural and they have to be low income. What we see is, again, that's an underserved segment of districts, and these funds Congress appropriates to ensure that they have adequate services to meet their needs. Generally, we see folks using these funds to serve high schools where they may not get a funding source like Title I Part A, but to make up the difference for those types of programs. This program is kind of unique because it could be used to meet any of the allowable activities. If you look at the bottom of the middle paragraph there, or the middle column, it can be used to meet the activities under Title I Part A, Title II Part A, Title III, or Title IV. So essentially, this is a flexible program, which was one of the purposes of this program when written into statute, to allow great flexibility in how these particular set of funds are used. So what you've seen probably as we're going through here in the third column, you've noticed that there are lots of yeses. You've noticed that probably the biggest way these funds can be used is to provide professional development. And again, the serving kids that may not be up to par with their grades, but could be identified as gifted and talented students. For the most part, those are the biggest uses you're going to find. Some of those are very targeted to very specific populations, such as Title I Part C, can be used on migrant students only. And those kids have to qualify for migrant services. And for Title I Part D, for those neglected and delinquent students only. So at this point, Kathy, I think I'll stop and see if there are any other questions.
Thank you, David.
Abused.
Does anybody have any questions or follow-up for David?
Is this PowerPoint available to us?
Kathy, did you just send that out to everyone on the council?
Send out the sheet.
Yeah, that's all there is. No PowerPoint, just the sheet.
Just the paperwork.
Yes.
I sent out the sheet that has all the tables with the information that David has so graciously provided today.
Title programs, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I so appreciate this information. Could we follow up with you if we have questions? This might be something we study and have questions later.
Yeah, Kathy, are you okay with me putting my contact information in the chat?
That's
definitely.
Okay. I'll put my email address in the chat and I'm going to stop sharing. In addition to that, there's probably one more thing I would like to mention. We are partnering with a new association in Kentucky. It's the Kentucky Rural Education Association. They are an offshoot of the National Rural Education Association. They have just been kind of starting their membership drive. They started meeting probably a couple years ago. And the goal was just to get a base membership going and then start a charter and outline what their goals would be. To this point, I think they've started recruiting membership through conferences and through emails to different districts. And their goal is to ensure equity across rural districts, essentially. So if you have not heard of that, the superintendent in Owen County, and his name is slipping my mind right now, but he is leading the charge in that association. And if you are interested in hearing more or being involved with them, you could contact him directly to get some more information.
Cool.
I think that's
county?
What's
what
that?
County? What's county?
OWEN.
Oh,
And David, if you think of his name, just send that to me and I'll email that out to the council.
Okay, it's Jennifer Stafford's husband. And I cannot
Superintendent
remember.
Stafford.
Huh?
So it's Superintendent Stafford.
Yeah, and I cannot remember his first name.
No, it's not Stafford.
It's not okay.
Stafford?
I think it's Rob.
Rob, yes, Rob.
But not Stafford?
Stafford.
I was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, but Kathy, I'm gonna have to hop off here and get to another meeting. I'll leave my contact email in the chat. It was good speaking with you. And again, if you do have additional questions, you can forward them to me. And like I tell everybody, if I'm not the right person, I'll get it to the right person. We're always willing to answer questions, and that's what we're here for. So
That's
great
right.
to meet you all, and have a good afternoon.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you.
Very good.
I think the next thing on the agenda is really pretty kind of short answer responses. I know that in terms of assessments in science and social studies, Deanna Miller and I volunteered to look for this, and Deanna took the first step and put together a list. I had a grad student work with me on making the list, kind of filling in some details with the list. And what we need now is for others to look at it, add other information so that we can come up with a pretty comprehensive list of possibilities for assessing academic strength in science and social studies. And we'll send this out to you.
Okay.
I looked at that list quickly, Dr. Roberts, and several of those are already on the Gifted and Talented Coordinator Sample Handbook. But I can send that list out to the membership along with the new GT Coordinator Sample Handbook, if that would be helpful, so that they can kind of do a comparison if they want.
That would be good. And I think a lot of people who need that information may not be coordinators. The coordinators need it, but other people,
yes, ma'am,
might need access to that as well. Under new GT resources, the only thing that I want to highlight here is that last week, when the National Association for Gifted Children met, the new State of the State was released. And the official one actually won't be available for a couple more weeks. But all 50 states have responded to this State of the States, looking at what was available in gifted education in their state in 2018-19. So consider that to be a really rich source of information as you're looking at what could be offered, where it's offered, who might be a contact for that information.
Right. And I was also wanting to include the new resources that are up on the GT resources webpage as well. I collaborated with Emily as well as Carla Pleasant with some other people, and we finally decided to do a video. And so Carla and Lauren Case from Fayette County were gracious enough to work with me on a video. And so Carla did the first portion of the video, which is about how to use a Flipgrid for visual and performing arts. And then Lauren Case did about 15 minutes on how to use Bitmoji and other resources, like she has Arts in the Park type thing that she does virtually. So if you haven't had a chance, I'll put that link in the chat here. So there's that as well. Also, the frequent is also there, and it covers, how to answer questions about, can I identify students remotely? How do I go about doing that? Services, what are some thoughts about services during COVID-19? Participation, those types of things. So that's also there. And then finally, after many years, we finally have our social emotional brochure is also posted there. And as you know, Dr. Ed Amon and Molly Isaacs McLeod were some of those people that worked on that in in collaboration with several of the other advisory council members over the past 5 years. So that's also been posted, and it covers a wide range of things like myths, perfectionism, asynchronous development. It's just a really good guidance document that you can share with people in your district as well as parents. So take a look at that. I'll put that in the chat here in a second. So just wanted to put that out there as well. I think we're going to have to table Dr. Roberts, maybe, I don't know, the Gifted Student Service Plan Infinite Campus, because that really is going to take some looking at, I think. But I'll do whatever y'all want to do.
I think that's fine to do it, and we'll make sure that we start out at the next meeting with that, and frankly, maybe have Toddy available so she could talk about it.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea.
And probably all of you have heard that Duke Tip is no more.
Mhm.
What?
It was closed and will not open up again.
Why?
Um,
Why? I guess.
Why
I
was
mean-
it closed? Well, the provost office at Duke closed it. And it's after a 40-year history.
Right.
Is it correct that the summer programs will perhaps still be run, but the talent search portion will not?
No, that is not correct.
Okay.
I think
Oh.
Iowa's Beal and Blank is working on something, though, correct, Dr. Roberts?
Well, when I heard this, I thought, oh my goodness, we've worked with Duke Tip for 40 years.
Yeah.
Expecting needs to continue a talent search. And I called Susan Asseline, who directs the Bell and Blank Center at the University of Iowa.
Come on.
Two other directors of centers also got in contact, and we have been meeting to form a consortium in order to offer talent search services for our own states. So stay tuned for an announcement, but we do intend to keep the talent search for elementary children, as well as the talent search as we've known it for 7th graders going. The biggest challenge this year is that ACT and SAT are overwhelmed with offering the assessments to juniors and seniors who have to take it. So there's kind of a gap year, but we are expecting to offer some services this spring, and by next year be operating as a talent center.
At Western.
Yes,
You're speaking.
Yeah.
And I guess at the Moorhead Center, will they offer for the Eastern Kentucky?
No. We'll do this for Kentucky.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome, though.
Well, our time is really, we're over time here, and we still need to talk about dates for the coming year. I'm going to share my screen with you guys and offer some suggestions, or as one of our colleagues is known, suggestions. See if I can put that up there real quick where you can see it. So last year, here's our dates that we had. We met June 16th, a little later because of COVID and some things going on there, August 27th and November 19th. We may have met earlier in the year, but I didn't have access to that date. I'm suggesting these dates here. So look at your calendar and give me some feedback on what you guys think. February the 10th. Is that a good date for everybody?
Yeah, 17th, Wednesday. I like Wednesday.
February the 10th. Is that all right for everybody?
Mm-hmm. I think. Okay.
Okay. April the 14th, another Wednesday.
Of course, will we know if these are virtual or not?
Yes, we'll continue to meet virtually in 2021. I feel pretty confident. I'm not as sure about September the 8th and November the 17th, but I feel pretty confident that here in the spring we'll continue to meet that way. What about April the 14th? Look at your calendars for that.
April 14th. Okay. I can change that though. Okay.
And then in the fall, September the 8th.
September. Can't believe it. Yes. Most of these are Wednesdays. I guess that.
Yeah, they're all on Wednesday. I just decided to kind of hit the middle of the week. And then November the 17th.
A year from now.
Yes, ma'am.
Now.
And so with new members, we can tell them what the dates are to put in their calendars.
Yes. Yes. And I hope that we will have new members, but with the pandemic and all, I mean, I've heard people say that they are applying, but I haven't heard anything yet back from our liaison to the governor's office, but fingers crossed, we'll hear something soon.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
Well, those of us who are requesting to be, if we could possibility to be reappointed, hopefully we'll hear before February whether or not we are to attend those meetings.
I think you serve until there are new appointments.
Okay.
Correct.
It was
That's
making
correct.
sure.
Yes.
The new appointments are usually announced around the middle of December if they're going to make new appointments.
Okay.
That doesn't always fall true, but that's usually when I look for them.
Okay. That's good to know. Good to know.
I want to thank each of you for joining today. I hope you have a happy holiday. These holidays will be different for many of us than they've ever been before. But stay safe.
One more thing.
What? One more thing.
What's your more thing?
I have an exit slip that I need everybody to do. I'm going to put it over here in the chat, and I'll also send it through email. Sorry about that, Dr. Roberts. Continue
No problem.
on.
No problem.
I'm not familiar with the chat.
So I'll email it to you, Miss Mackey, and you can fill it out that way.
Okay. Now, if we say we'll go ahead and be on the council next year, we tell you that. Is that all we need to do?
Yes, Miss Mackey, I've written your name down. But you also need to fill out an application.
And that's the one on the website with the commissions and boards, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. And I'll send you a link to that too.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Roberts, you were doing such a wonderful job of telling everybody how much you appreciated them. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no problem. I wish each of you well, and let's stay in touch. We've got important work to do.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you too.
Bye.
Thank you too.
Thank you, Miss Mackey. Happy
Thanks so
Thanksgiving,
much.
everybody. Stay
Everyone
safe.
take care.
Stay safe.
Yep. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. I'll stay on a few minutes in case anybody's got a question or concern.
Hey, Kathy, that was the link to the original Google form, rather than a link to the form for us to fill out, like you're sending us to the original.
Well, thank you very much,
And we don't
Katie,
want
for
to
that.
edit your thoughts.
Might want to put that in there.
How soon does that need to be filled out? I mean,
I do it right away.